let me jump into the Perth event, and the title that of the event is Challenging the Norm: Humans and Machines. And I was wondering, just choosing that title and looking at it, how do you see that the norm in the legal industry has changed, and what do you think our biggest challenge is that we're facing right now?
Okay, well, taking the first one, the norm as such and how that's changed. The answer to that is twofold. Well, the norm is in how solicitors practice or barristers, how they go about their day-to-day operations and how they behave on a one-to-one client basis as such. That's pretty standard, and that hasn't changed a lot, I would say. But what I would say that where it is starting to shift, is in the norm, is in business models and things like that are starting to get looked at based on the fact that from a buyer's perspective, so the expectations of clients or new customers, society, cultures and what have you, are all moving towards wanting to do more for themselves and fairness and getting costs down and access to not just justice, but actual legal services at a fair cost and availability with ease. So clients and customers are used to going online and using digital technologies or any form of technology in order to self-help and self-serve. That is actually starting to happen in lots of industries, whether it's insurance, accountancy, legal, tax. So making that switch for customers wanting to do lots more of legal self-help, that has started to happen. And we have seen that in the last couple of years, without a doubt. So challenging the norm is all really about, if the norm is the standard way of practicing, then it is starting to shift. And I am saying let's challenge that, because we need to, because if it's all been about client-centric and customer-centric, the norm for them has shifted. So it's about this mismatch at the moment and actually bringing the two together. So, and then obviously it is about human and machine and what element should be supplied by the human and what's supplied by the machine. And likewise, from a buyer's perspective, how comfortable they are with a machine rather than a human, or a mix of both. So this is about moving along a continuum, really, of the comfort zone and the comfort factor, but also the price continuum and the availability and all aspects to it. So I think, challenging the norm is where it's at, because it is about providing better service, faster service, even cheaper service to the masses. And how you go about that is definitely challenging the norm, because as we're all aware, 80 to 90% of most nations' population do not acquire legal service from a traditional solicitor. So that there has to be a movement. And I believe that bringing machines into the mix will actually help that movement move forward positively.
I guess we're used to in the industry think about that as being a one-size-fits-all. But do you see those intersections in different places for different groups of clients, for different types of firms? Will it be the same, or do you see us kind of, as a profession, really morphing into a bunch of different business models that will suit different clients?
Yes. This is about sectorization, niching. It's about different types of, from the perspective of the buyer, how comfortable they are, whether they need that human touch element or not, and this is about a trust element as well. So, when I actually sit back and think about it, the research is just catching up with what your gut tells you as an entrepreneur is naturally going to happen, and how comfortable we are at using all kinds of digital. But the research is actually proving, one statistic is huge. It's, 7 out of 10 consumers would prefer to use a law bot than a human now, because it's faster, better, cheaper, and they're in control of it. So, all of those barriers that used to prevent the everyday person, lay person or small business, medium-sized business or whatever, actually using a qualified solicitor as such, that has started to shift. So I do see that there's going to be different business models to suit different consumers or businesses or different types of law, because obviously the machines can't do everything. They're pockets of modules that do certain things, but to say that they can do the entire role or entire task of everything and every skill that a human lawyer has, even I would say at this stage, a machine cannot do that. But there's a lot of the elements of a lawyer's tasks and roles that a machine could just do 100%. For example, creating a contract or doing a contract. And if it's absolutely spot on and it's got the parameters and it's programmed as such, then there's very little human intervention required. So, I think one of the biggest challenges, to answer your second question, to that part of the question, one of the biggest challenges is, from the lawyer or the profession perspective, is to actually have that mindset shift to embrace technology, to start doing the stuff that the human shouldn't be doing anymore, particularly when the machine can do it far better and quicker and more accurately, and not get tired and not make as many mistakes. There's been plenty of competitions recently whereby, it's been proven that the machine is more accurate and faster and better and what have you. So why wouldn't we as professional lawyers use the machine? Because that would be a better value service for our clients anyway. But that's started to shift, as we said, challenging the norm. The norm is that some firms are actually using these brilliant technologies now anyway, but not all. So this is about, coming down the vertical as well, so that, the price point is such that individual lawyers could actually use technology. And that's available now as well. So I think that the challenge is about behavior change from the lawyer's perspective, because it needs to match behavior change from the buyer's perspective. But then that has to be hand in hand with a business model, because obviously if you're starting to shift and relate or transact in a different way, then if you're losing things out of the bottom of the bucket that you normally had, you better make sure you've got something to put in the top of the bucket. And that does require strategic thinking, and about being brave as well, making that transition sensibly, to replace something that you've been comfortable with and done all the same way before with something new, but you do it gradually so that one does replace the other, and all is well for both parties, basically.
Let me pick up on the tech point, because you're a serial entrepreneur, or a legalpreneur, as we
That's a great. Who came up with that? It's a fantastic.
Well, I was hoping it was me, but I think someone else did actually. So I don't think I can actually take credit for it. But you've been part. I mean, you've been very, very much connected to that part that is legal tech. You have Robot Lisa, and obviously you've been at the forefront of that and remain at the forefront of that. Sometimes folks equate legal tech with innovation. They think it's one and the same thing. Where do you come down on that? Is legal tech innovation? Is innovation something separate? Are they linked or connected in some way?
They're certainly connected, but I see innovation happens in every aspect of a business. It happens whether it's innovating on customer service, internal processes, whether it's marketing, sales, operations. You can innovate in every aspect of a business, every element. And the use of technology for the day-to-day operations, from the internal perspective, to support any user, whether it's a lawyer or a support to the lawyers or whatever, you can innovate dramatically in every respect. But technology might not be the answer to that. That might just be using a new model, so a new sales model or a new customer service model as such. So it doesn't have to be tech related, but the technology then supports those new strategies and plans and models to be more efficient and effective. So I see innovation as a huge subject and huge potential in lots of areas. So it's a sum of all the parts have to come together to have a really dynamic business to deliver a brilliant service and product. And technology can be used to develop product, not just service. So it is a fundamental part of innovating in the legal ecosystem right now, I believe, because tech is around us in every aspect of our lives. Therefore, legal tech going forward, and if I can differentiate, there's legal tech and law tech. I see legal tech as such is very much about where technology companies have developed legal software and solutions where they're selling it to lawyers in law firms or GCs and corporates, where it supports the lawyer in their job and role. So I see that as legal tech. And then whether it's serving the client or not, it doesn't matter. But legal tech for lawyers to continue doing what they've always done in a similar way, but faster, cheaper, better. Whereas I see law tech has evolved, and law tech is very much about capitalizing on this neglected, unmet need of the mass potential legal buying market, where there's new providers in the space who are providing law tech to those new clients or customers who ordinarily would not have had the opportunity to self-help and self-serve and DIY in legal service and legal product. So to use robot lawyer Lisa as the example that you mentioned earlier anyway, we developed that simply because we could see that there was a burgeoning need and want from lay people to actually create their own contracts. And we know this because we've done the research and having met with other corporates as well now. They also know that people want to do more automated forms or automated contracts or whatever. But we tend to behave in the unilateral way, so continuing the normal behavior of how it happens. So, the user would expect to actually just create their own form, just as if they've gone to a human lawyer or their own contract, and they've got it on one side and that's it. So off they go and then continue doing the usual thing. Whereas I think the next step is much beyond that. It's about how do you capitalize on a human lawyer's expertise and get that into a software, into a program, so an IP framework, whereby the user feels as if they've actually got that human lawyer holding their hand as they're going through it. And that's quite different. And then obviously, if the regulation permits in regulatory friendly jurisdictions, which we are blessed in the UK, we have LSA 2006, and there's certain regulatory frameworks that we have to sit within. But if a machine is delivering the legal service and product as such, it can actually act for both sides if you want to make the advice and information available to both sides at the same time. So the user actually has the choice. They are informed, they're educated, they get all the kind of information that they would get if they would actually ask the human lawyer, so that they are educated, they're knowledgeable, they have the experience in the system that they can pull upon as well. So, why wouldn't you as a customer think, well, if I could have this kind of service or product, I don't need to go to the human solicitor and spend all this time, money, costs, whatever, and I can't actually afford it anyway. It does, I keep coming back to it, but majority of people can't afford, $100 an hour. It's still $100 to $1,000 an hour for most legal advice and starting to draft a contract. Now, that is way out of the league for most ordinary people. So I do firmly believe that innovation in the legal space should embrace and encapsulate the best of what technology can be used for, which is actually reaching out and helping the mass market actually get access to quality, nuanced expertise, legal advice and products, contracts, whatever, assessments. And it's timely. It's timely because the technology is there now. It may not have been there 10 or 5 years ago, but the technology is there. Now it's just about the willingness of the lawyers or the new entrants coming in who say, yeah, we're going to use it in this way. The challenge for them is the same. What is the right business model to make sure we can get this to market and keep going to make it viable, feasible and sustainable for all parties concerned?
But how do you see, who are those specialists that are emerging? What will that extended and broader multiple group of professionals look like in 5 or 10 years down the track?
Yeah, I think we're actually starting to see it, Terry, in that how the new law students are going through law school and coming out and then choosing to go into different veins of legal service, if I could use that terminology. We're starting to see that they are choosing to take their legal education, so their understanding of the law and the jurisprudence and all the rest of it, but then apply it into helping develop legal product. So I think as year on year on year on go, we're going to find that there is more legal product out there, commoditized, but expert. So more expertise automation, not just commoditized automated form filling, which is quite different. I actually think the transition over the next decade is going to be about how to capture and scale expertise. So because what's really difficult is how do you turn the clock back 40 years with the wisdom and brilliance of a human lawyer? Okay, now if you could actually leapfrog and put that into a system, a software and a product that could then be utilized by clients and customers, that to me is where you're going to start to find a lot of these different legal service providers as such, and the individuals themselves are going to start getting involved in those kinds of projects or businesses. And it may include existing law firms as well, because there are many law firms that are starting to employ, data scientists, computer scientists, and the law students that have gone through are actually doing different courses that are a multiple of not just the law itself, but understanding different types of technology and different types of legal tech available and law tech, and thinking, what can we create that's new? So the new skills coming through will tend to be the technological skills of understanding the systems that are out there and what is possible. So it may be that people who deliver legal service or legal product will be a mix of anybody in an organization, because they will be empowered with the wisdom and expertise of human lawyers from the past and the present that have actually put their intelligence into a system so that they've got direct access to it. So legal service and legal product could come from all different directions and dimensions, from corporates, businesses, new individuals as well, who were thinking my portfolio of skills are quite different, and human lawyers themselves that have made that leap of faith and been brave and done that jump and said, I'm going to put a brain dump into a system so that my knowledge and expertise is available to tens, hundreds of thousands of people all in one go, rather than just on a one-to-one basis. So I do see that we, all of us as lay people, will feel as if we are mini law students, because we're going to be educated and aware and be using product and systems and legal service that is going to be explanatory. Therefore, when we're using these legal systems and legal product as such, we're armored with the kind of knowledge and expertise that we would expect if we were sat in front of a human lawyer. So basically, I think there's going to be more different types of lawyering being done, but it won't be done by the human lawyer individual as we see them now. It will be hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of lay people using legal service, legal product, which I think is quite different. And obviously, we're going to use other professions. Other professions will be legal providers. Yeah. It already exists. Look at big insurance companies, big accountancy companies. They are actually delivering legal service and legal product direct to their customers when the customers are using their employment forms, or the helpline as such is done through a chatbot in the form rather than the norm, the standard way. So I think there's going to be a real exponential growth in businesses and corporates taking control of that aspect, because they're going to have all of the best involved. And a good example of that is what's happened with Riverview Law and Ernst & Young. Yeah. You're just going to see more of that at a different level as well, coming down the vertical. So the next decade, I think we're going to see a huge shift. I always revert back to a great piece of research done by George Beaton a few years ago. I think it was about 2015, so it's not that long ago. But he showed, what is the likely legal landscape in the next 10 years. And I looked at that very closely. I thought, this is fantastic. And you could see how the transition of where traditional law firms are being squeezed, because corporates and other businesses are taking a lot of the legal work for themselves in-house, using the technology systems, hiring computer scientists, other programmers, some lawyers as well, keeping the expertise of the lawyers as well, but the whole matrix is shifted. And I just see that we're definitely starting to see that now, as George researched and predicted as such. And that is only going to increase based on the statistics and the research from reports as to how buyers of legal services are starting to use or expect to see different types of legal provision.
Well, thank you for that. And I know this is just the teeniest part of what's going to be an amazing discussion as you kind of move around the country. Can't wait for you to get here, and extremely grateful for your time today. And for those people who will be unfortunate if they can't make it to your events, then at least there's a little glimpse for them to see what they're missing out on the very least.
There's lots of stuff. I mean, you've got great podcasts. I've noticed on the CLI, Terry. There's loads of really information-rich content on there, a mix of articles and videos as such. So when you start to put the jigsaw together, from other contributors as well, the other thought leaders and those who are actually doing it in practice, not just theory. And there's lots of material available obviously on my website, Entrepreneur Lawyer and Robot Lawyer Lisa. And other pioneers that are actually pushing the barriers and at the forefront. We're starting to see a whole plethora of material out there YouTube channels, what have you. So, and using the social media channels such as LinkedIn as well, a lot of the stuff gets published now as well.
Yeah.
I do publish quite often. So if anybody is wanting to see any of my material, it's all there for free. All of these kind of interviews and articles or whatever. There's a couple of books there as well, obviously. Tomorrow's Naked Lawyer is still selling well. Naked Lawyer is still a bestseller. And it's amazing, actually. I got a nice message the other day from one of the ladies, and she said, I loved your book. And I said, which one? And she said, I didn't realize you had 2 out. And I thought, I haven't done a very good job there, have I? It's one of those things where, the books are standing the test of time because we're still in this transition.
Yes.
So, there's, I guess one of the other challenges is for all of us is it's really difficult to keep up to date with how fast everything's moving. So the only way to do that is to help each other and to collaborate.
Yes.
So what you are doing and the other is fantastic. So thank you for the opportunity. I wouldn't have been going to Perth if you hadn't got involved and said, there's people here who want to hear. So, as coordinating it, Terry, it's fantastic in conjunction with ALTMA and the University of Western Australia. So thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. Safe travels, and we look forward to seeing you here in Australia very soon. Thanks a lot, Chrissie.
Lovely. Thank you, Terry. Thank you. Bye-bye.